But Adam, you know what we're not on the same page about?
Yes, what's that?
Ending the federal government shutdown.
Apparently not, which is surprising because we're usually on the same page on almost things.
I think we're further apart than we think. We just have a good way of talking to each other about it.
I guess so, because you're the anarchist.
I'm here for the Molotovs, my friend. God's greatest cocktail.
Question is, how much of it do you drink before you start throwing them?
Well,
it's like, why aren't these working? It's because you're drinking too much of it.
That's between me and my liver. But yeah, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Idiot Seeking Village. Rich here with Adam, as always. Adam, we're just jumping right into it. I think you and I want to verbally fight about this government shutdown ending.
Yes,
I'm gonna send a Molotov towards your survival bunker. Let's test out your defenses. I'm gonna find the vent and I'm gonna put some stink bombs in there to just flush
see
out.
If all the flame retardant I used holds up.
But yeah, it's so weird, right? We have government shutdowns just in general. Like usually when governments shut down, it's because society's collapsed, right?
Yes.
Or there's been like an invasion or something has gone terribly wrong. But like for us in our lifetime, at least, this is kind of normal.
These little cordial disagreements.
Yeah, it's so weird, right? I was actually looking into this a bit. So we've had 11, I think this is the 11th shutdown since 1980, since Reagan came in. And it happened because his attorney general, Benjamin Civiletti, he basically took a look at something called the Anti-Deficiency Act, which is a law that governs government spending, and was like, yeah, no, you're not allowed to operate and use expenditures in excess of what Congress allocates to you, right? Because Congress controls spending for the government overall. And in theory, correct? Yes, in theory.
Mr. Trump says otherwise, I will, and he is the rule of law.
It's like a Simpsons bit, right? In theory, communism works. In theory, yes. In theory, Congress controls the purse strings fully and without any sort of impact from the other branches of government, right? But yeah, so before then, government shutdowns were like really rare because everyone's just embarrassed to do them. But after Civiletti kind of authored a series of opinions, we started treating it as like, no, you can't spend money that's not allocated to you. You're not allowed to do that. And that's why shutdowns happened. It really only started under Reagan. Actually, Carter had like an almost 17 or 18 day funding gap at one point, right? It wasn't a government shutdown, but it was this whole like, we don't actually have spending, but we're going to spend the money while we still figure out a budget and pass a continuing resolution or a new budget for the next year or whatever in the meantime. It's only started since Reagan. And actually, I was looking into these. Do you know anything about them? They're actually, it's really kind of pathetic how they've actually gone on.
Just, I remember it was like the Tea Party had the longest shutdown until recently. But not other than stupid agreements on usually deficit spending or cutting something.
Yeah, it was always just some like minor disagreements, right? And they usually under Reagan in particular, they only lasted like a couple of days, maybe even a day or two. And often they were over the weekend. So like there was never actually a shutdown, right? Like nothing was actually impacted. But two of them actually are really funny. He had 8 of them, which is fantastic, right? You initiate this and you have 8 of them in your 8 years. So the first one I want to mention was actually his second shutdown, which was a 1-day shutdown in September of 1982. And it's not because they couldn't come to an agreement. It's everybody had a party to go to. Reagan was hosting a barbecue at the White House with a bunch of Republicans invited, and the Democrats were hosting like some $1,000 a plate fundraiser that night. And all leadership was like, fuck it, we're shutting down the government. We're not canceling these parties. Everyone go enjoy yourselves.
That was like, so we don't have to vote on something, so we're going to shut it down? Because can't they just be like, hey, we're just going to these parties, and why do you need to shut down the government?
They had to shut down the government because the funding for the government expired. So
Gotcha.
what they would have had to do, right? Leadership would be like, no, you're not going to the party. You're staying here. You're working this out, getting a new bill passed, new continuing resolution or whatever passed. And they're like, fuck it, go to your parties. Like, we'll just let it shut down. Then like a day later, they reopened it, right? They signed it. But they're like, we're going to the parties. We're officially having it shut down for like a full day. And then we'll sign all the paperwork and get it back open. So like, it didn't even do anything. It's just like, we just want to have a good time. We don't want to cancel our parties.
It sounds so ridiculous. It's like the entire Congress, it is like me and my wife 20, like the day before, realizing like, oh, the kid has a birthday party tomorrow. Oh shit, I didn't realize that. Oh well, fuck it. Like, they didn't realize 24 hours ago. Hey, aren't you going to the Reagan barbecue? Yeah, I am. Aren't you? Yeah. Oh shit, we're all going. Maybe we should do this now. So fucking dumb.
It's amazing. Yeah, but it's kind of like, and no one was even, it wasn't even like acrimonious. They were just kind of like, fuck it, we'll figure it out later. Like, everyone just have a good time. We already pay for the open bar, so you might as well take advantage. We're not getting refunds on this stuff.
And then what happens if one of those guys imbibes too much, gets into an accident, and can't vote anymore?
Oh, yeah, are you talking about the Ted Kennedy? I mean, that's
something like that. It's just, I don't know. I don't know. Just gross incompetence.
I'm trying to remember, right? My dad listened to, it was either a lot of, well, I remember he listened to a lot of Don Imus when I was in the car with him. But I think he also listened to Limbaugh. I think. It's all blurry at this stage.
Well, they were on at the same time, so I think.
And they were fairly similar in a lot of ways, right? But I remember every time Ted Kennedy would get brought up, they'd have like the drowning sound, like someone blowing bubbles under the water play in the background. Yeah, it was real classy, but that's how it was in the 90s.
I also remember though, like, because Don Imus used to do a lot of bits. He was known for his bits and stuff.
Yeah.
So he had a lot of Rush Limbaugh bits.
Yes.
So I mean, I remember one. I was like, it was so great. It was Rush Limbaugh singing "I'm Dreaming of a White Christmas."
Yep, I remember.
And
that
it
one.
was so good. It was so fucking
I remember
good.
it ended, "May all your Christmases be white." It was like, oh god, like it's such a dog whistle for racism, but it was above board though. Like, they made the joke and it was racist, but it was like above board racism. You know what I mean? Like, it was making fun of
it. It was in a classy way. That's why you do it in a classy way. Wasn't that like in Private Parts? Is like Imus does it in a classy way. Paul Giamatti was because he was like about Howard Stern. He's like, but Imus, he does it in a classy way. That's
exactly what it was. Yes, these are like plantation owning racists, right? They're real nice, they're dressed up and all that. So it's a kind of racism you aspire to, effectively.
That's what the America wants to return to get that classy racism back, not the street racism, the classy racism.
Oh, God. We used to be a real country, Adam.
Were we? when the Native Americans ran it, or I don't even know.
I'm not clarifying when that used to occur, so fill in your own blanks on that one. So Reagan, the only other one that's worth mentioning, and this is less funny, but was in December of 1987. This was his 8th and final one, and it involved two major items that would not bite anyone in the ass even 40 years later at this point. Funding the Nicaraguan Contras and the fight to reinstate the Fairness Doctrine. So those were the two particular issues that happened. So ultimately, we ended up funding the Contras, but for non-violent means. And then, of course, the Fairness Doctrine gives us our absolutely horrendous media landscape of today.
Oh, good old Reagan.
Yeah. But yeah, you were saying before, right? The Tea Party had a long one during Obama, right? And actually, I think, that one was about, what was that one about? That was about
mostly, or was it?
No, that one, the Obamacare, Obama was about Obamacare, and they were trying to punt the ACA, right? The Affordable Care Act. They were basically trying to delay it and punt it, and because that was when they were in their full-on obstructionist mode, had the congressional Republicans, and that's when they shut it down for, I think it was 15 days, 16 days, or 13 days, something like that. And Boehner was the guy who's leading it, but they just got their asses handed to them. They lost the messaging war really badly. The one I think it was actually a lot more similar to the one that's literally happening today is we have to go back to 1995. Adam, I don't know if you remember 1995. I looked this up because I was like, a lot of shit happened in 1995. I want to just read up a quick list, right? 1995 was the launch, founding, or release of the following: the original PlayStation, Amazon, eBay, Yahoo, the GoldenEye movie for rebooting the Bond franchise with Pierce Brosnan. Starbucks introduced the Frappuccino. We got Toy Story, Gangsta's Paradise, Wonderwall were two of the big hits on the radio. Hootie and the Blowfish was, I believe, the number one selling album of the year.
See that.
We got Alanis Morissette. We got the fucking Macarena. Michael Jordan returned out of retirement. And we got the O.J. Simpson verdict. We also, lastly, got two of Hollywood's greatest productions, Waterworld and Showgirls.
I saw Showgirls in the theater, never seen Titanic. That just shows you what kind of gentleman I am.
Jesus Christ, that says everything about you, doesn't it?
I remember seeing the Titanic. I was like, I really should go see this movie. It's in the theater forever. I'm like, how? It's really long though. Oh, fuck that. But Showgirls, I went to see with my friends.
Oh God.
Hey, we grew up on Elizabeth Berkley, so we had to pay our respects.
That's true. What was her name? It was Jessie on
Spano.
Saved by the Bell. Jessie Spano. Yep. Can't fault anyone for that. Can't fault anyone.
You gotta go with your roots. You know, Titanic, schmitanic.
It's all right. I had for a couple of years. I don't know what happened to it. I used to have a Kelly Kapowski T-shirt. So yeah,
understand.
I got you. See, this is why.
As an adult or as a kid?
Oh no, as an adult. As an adult, I wore
sure.
that. Yeah. No, I was married.
She had to be
I wore the shirt.
One of my first crushes. I have to believe that was like one of the people I've seen. I saw on TV. I was like, oh my God, had to have been
Tiffany Amber Thiessen. Yeah, I think, but I think this says everything about you and me, right? You say, hey, we agree on a lot of things. I don't think we agree on as much because you're going Elizabeth Berkley. I'm saying Tiffany Amber Thiessen. So.
No, but I'm saying Tiffany was the one who I had a crush on. But I still got to represent for all my ladies on Saved by the Bell. And if they're going to be in a movie, I'm going to go see it.
What's the line from Starsky and Hutch? It's like, I got a thing for blondes. He goes, and he goes, whatever, I'll take anything. All right. So, yeah, 1995. We're talking about the reign of Billy Jeff. So congressional Republicans wanted to repeal 1993's tax increase on the wealthy and on corporations. Just by the way, that tax increase that they were railing about was only on, at the time, joint filers making $250,000 or more. And it was a 1% increase on corporations. By the way, that $250,000 in 1993 is ballpark $550,000 in income today. In any given year. So yeah, don't worry. You know, again, it's a marginal top tax rate increase. You can afford it if you're making those. But similar to today, Republicans also wanted to, in order to quote unquote balance the budget, they wanted to increase Medicare premiums. So basically they had a 5-day shutdown that led to a 1-month deal, about like a 4-week deal to continue negotiations. So I did a little continuing resolution. Now, that continuing resolution included a non-binding commitment that the Clinton administration and the Republicans, this was Newt Gingrich's Republicans, would work toward a balanced budget within 7 years using credible economic assumptions that they both agreed to. So does that sound familiar? What do we have this week, right? We have the Senate. We've got 7 Democrats and 1 independent crossing ranks to vote with the Republicans in the Senate to move forward a bill to reopen the government with a pinky promise to get a vote at some point about the Affordable Care Act and extending those credits for something like 9 million people getting insurance through the exchanges.
All right. Nothing like a good pinky promise.
Well, that's what we got, right? We got this week. And I think, ultimately, they shut down for 20 something days after that. That was actually the longest one up until Trump's in 2018, 2019, right around 7 years ago at this time. Ultimately, they reopened. When they reopened, the Republicans were like, hey, we were able to we're able to get Clinton to agree to a balanced budget. And Clinton was able to get the government to reopen again without accepting the Republican demands, right? He just did that kind of pinky promise swear that we'll talk about how we're going to agree on this. Ultimately, it backfired because once the second shutdown got underway, they got blamed for being obstructionists, the Republicans did. And Clinton was able to position himself as, hey, I'm just trying to save you guys from needless budget cuts. Those guys are trying to take stuff away from you. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just trying to keep things as it is. So I think that's where you and I have been kind of arguing about this week, right? Ever since that news came out about the Democratic defectors in the Senate going across to get the bill passed, is they didn't get anything for it, right? They got a pinky promise that we'll get a vote by January 30th, and there is a 1-year continuation of SNAP funding, so SNAP won't be on the chopping block.
Right.
If that doesn't get taken care of. But you're looking at, like I said, 9 million people who get their health care through the exchanges, right, through the Affordable Care Act, whose premiums are skyrocketing at this point. Yeah. The Democrats shit the bed here, man. They gave away all of their negotiating leverage in exchange for nothing.
I guess I look at it as I don't see the leverage that they gave up. I mean, you're looking at... What are we at? Geez, we're already almost getting to the middle of November right now. Mm-hmm. So you're talking about 2.5 months before they have to vote. I mean, you just took SNAP off the table, which was Trump was like, starve these fucking people. So you just took that weapon off the table. Now you could go back into the fight. You're going to delay, you're going to run traffic online now with this whole Epstein thing, because now they're signing off on that. They're going to force the Senate to either, because the House will vote. That's it, done. Now you're going to force the Senate to either agree or disagree. You're going to bash the Republicans on that for the next month, 6 weeks. Then you're going to be like, hey, we got to get this health thing going. And the Republicans are never going to go along with it. And you're going to be back to where you were. But this time, you're going to have millions of people who will get their food stamps. And people with the health insurance are going to get fucked. They're going to get fucked no matter what. This is what America wanted. They wanted Trump. This is what you get, unfortunately.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, though. You don't have 40 million some odd people, right, who are being supported by SNAP benefits. That's off the table. And so now you've just got these expiring ACA credits. And so life health insurance premiums are going to go up anyway. Yes. So what did you get for capitulating? You got nothing. You're now in a worse negotiating position because you've got nothing else to hang on to. You've got even fewer things. And by the way, like when you give up something, like when you lose the fairness doctrine, right? It's harder to get that back than it is to keep it in the first place. Right? Anytime you negotiate with someone, if you've already given up something and it's gone and it's done and over with, it costs you more to get it back.
Usually, but they didn't give up anything.
They've lost the ACA. They've lost the ACA credits, right?
Which were already lost.
Which were already lost because of One Big Beautiful Bill, but you could have pushed to keep them, right?
And you can in January.
But against what? What are you putting on the other side of the table?
Be back to where you were just a couple days ago.
But without 40 million people losing food during the holidays.
That's fine. You don't want them to do that.
So how the hell are you going to negotiate, Adam? What are you going to give to get?
I'm going to say that you don't have to give anything now, because now you're in end of January. So now you're in February, basically. All right. So now everybody's paying these premiums. So what is that? February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. So now you got 8 months before shit starts. You get start kicking in the primaries. You start getting all the political things. they have 8 months to be in a shutdown if they're necessary. And all those people who suffered, like the federal government officials who were suffering during this shutdown, will either have to say something this time around, or they're going to suffer also. Unfortunately, this is the Republicans' plan. They're going to punish you no matter what. Now the only chance is to punish them during the election. And that's it. You want to see the American people, unfortunately, suffer for their decisions. And this is what it's going to be. This, unfortunately, was always going to be the case because we were just going to be in a government shutdown indefinitely anyway. But now we have millions of people who will still get some benefits that they were entitled to anyway.
But you could have fought to keep those benefits that they're losing and gotten a win out of this. You could have gotten something out of it.
I think by saving the SNAP benefits, that was the win temporarily. That is why all the Democrats and the one wacko job independent signed off on it. Most of them are not coming back. They're done. They're at the end of their term. They're not running again. These guys were just falling on the sword to save those people, to push the can down further. They want to get, if they have half a brain, I'm not saying they're doing this properly or know what they're doing. You want to get as far down the road with people suffering before the election and hope that there is an actual election, that something else doesn't happen where they realize they're going to lose and don't even have an election. But you want, unfortunately, the people to suffer. Just don't have to suffer the whole time.
I disagree with two things. One is your characterization. Look, I agree that for conservatives, often the suffering is the point, right, of why they make these decisions. Right? It seems that way, or at least that's kind of a side effect of it. What kind of governing principle is make the American people suffer? Adam, they're in it for power. They're not ideologues.
I know, but how do you reclaim power? You make the American people suffer and be like, oh shit, I got to vote the other way this time. It's as simple as that.
So you're saying the Republicans are taking away the ACA tax benefits. They're trying to make 9 million people's premiums skyrocket in order to, while they control all three branches of government, including both houses of Congress. That's their plan to retake power in the midterms?
This is the Democrats' plan. I'm just saying that if you're a Democrat and you care about the people to some extent, just if you care about
that's the other one I disagree with your characterization, but continue.
So if you care enough to create the ACA or whatever, your goal is to minimize the devastation. So you are pushing out the devastation as far down the road as you can before you engage. You're trying to get the women and children out of the way first. So you do that with the SNAP benefits. We're like, okay, now we are ensuring the SNAP benefits for the year. We don't have to worry about them. Now we just got to worry about these 9 million people who predominantly are probably red voters. So odds are you're hoping that they're going to be the ones who flip going forward. You want to push that out as far as you can, because if you don't, if all of a sudden the Democrats won and Republicans came back yesterday and were like, let's fix this, we're going to fix it, we'll fix it right now, you just lost all that. So now you want them to force it into their hands again, where they have to make a vote for health insurance or no health insurance. That's it. It's as easy as that. Because clearly they don't give a shit, because they wouldn't have put you in this position to begin with.
But that's the thing, right? This is what I think we talked about this redistricting and representation, is now what the Democrats have done is, well, we're going to give you choice of 2 shitty options. They're both terrible choices, right? This is lesser of 2 evils crap. And what do you get when you choose the lesser of 2 evils? You get evil. I'm saying it's this lesser of 2 evils crap.
Oh,
right?
That's right.
It's
lesser of 2 evils.
You get 2 shitty choices. There's still a shitty choice. It's not a good thing objectively, right? They could have. What I'm saying is they could have fought to not make two shitty choices or give us only two shitty choices. You could have fought to give at least a neutral choice, if not a beneficial one. But they chose not to. They've given up that fight.
I think once you saw the the devil in Trump's being like saying to like the Supreme Court, hey, we want to we want you to delay us giving SNAP benefits. We want to see if basically if we can starve these people if necessary. Delay that. They had no intention or desire to ever approve anything. So this way they guarantee it the safety of all these other people, regardless if this is their plan or not. I mean, Democrats for the most part are incompetent. They mean well, but they don't know what they're doing. I'm just saying, from my point of view, if I was in charge, this is, to me, is not a problem, because I don't think the Republicans had any intention of negotiating. They could have cared less. And this way, the Democrats force the ball back in their corner, and hopefully, in the meantime, we're going to get a lot of sweet, sweet Epstein release.
I mean, you're right that they don't intend to negotiate, right? House Majority Leader Steve Scalise said he's not committed to holding a vote on this, right? He's like, that was the Senate's. He's like, that's what the Senate said. He's like, I'm not doing it. And Mike Johnson, right, House Speaker, he said, quote, I'm not promising anybody anything. Right. End quote, right? Like they said, all right, thanks for giving us this win. We're not going to give you anything you want. By the way, the House Freedom Caucus, speaking of Tea Party, right? They are saying this is a complete and total win. Their internal memo about this, CBS News got a copy of it. It says we successfully stiff-armed a massive omnibus spending bill, locked in disciplined flat spending levels, preserved President Trump's policy priorities, as well as his already announced project cancellations and rescissions, and defended his ability to do more, and kept our leverage for the next round in January. End quote.
Because the Republicans are better at talking than Democrats. That is why you had Democrat leaders go on there and be like, we were beaten, we were defeated, what the fuck are you talking about?
They were defeated by their own party. But Adam, you can't pretend that somehow it's a win. You can't pretend that. It is a win. It is not a win. Their own party is screaming to the rooftops. What the fuck are you doing?
Because they have to.
What do you mean they have to?
This is like a political wind tunnel where you sacrifice these people so you could say you were going to be tough and you were going to keep fighting, because that is what your base was looking for. Your base was looking to destroy everything around them, because that is what the Republicans were planning on doing. Period. This was never going to be resolved in a fashionable, appropriate sort of way. Unless
you absolutely could have. People who can't feed their families for Thanksgiving, people who cannot budget after all the increases in the cost of living in America, a few $100 to a few $1,000s more a month in healthcare premiums in a few weeks. That absolutely would have put pressure on the Republicans to deal with that. The Democrats, the Republicans owned all of Congress. They owned the presidency. It was their shutdown, Adam. They had to come to the table.
I understand that, but the Republicans are better on TV, on their networks, convincing the people that the Democrats were involved. You had Mike Johnson every single day having the microphone, speaking,
but no
and
one
saying,
believed that.
But that's the problem. They did, because the Democrats' version was Chuck Schumer, who doesn't know his ass from his elbow. I'm just saying right now, you will have in January concrete evidence and proof when the House and the Senate do not go along with helping the people who are not going to have health care, or the people who are giving up health care, or the people who are going to spend twice as much on health care. They're going to fuck those people again. And now it's going to be all on them, because the Democrats will have nothing else to do but walk away. And now you're voting on it this time. You're voting saying, oh, by the way, we're double dipping. We passed a beautiful
They're
bill.
not
we fucked you
voting
then.
on it. They're not voting on it. That's the point. This fucking pinky promise in the Senate doesn't mean shit because the House is saying, we're not even going to entertain this. Go fuck yourselves.
It doesn't have to be as long as the Senate does. And if they back out, then we're like, okay, we went along as giving them a chance to like amend themselves and do something about this. They just chose not to. You know, it's the same premise as you did the barbecue thing. They knew coming into this was going to be an issue, and they all did nothing. And they went into the shutdown. So this is the same premise. But now if you're a Democrat and you have an ounce of brain, you should be out there putting the onus on them every single day to get what you want. Because you will be back to where you were now, and you're still going to be fucked. I'm just telling you, this is, if I was in charge, this is what I would have done to begin with, because I didn't see this getting anywhere. Because what would you do? Have protests in the streets? You're not going to get that for this, because you're going to blame two different sides. There'll be no Democrat side to be blamed for this at the end of January. They're going to try the Republicans, but it'll be a lot easier to defend this than it was the other way. I'm just saying, because the only reason they capitulated was for the promise of a vote that you're saying that they're not going to even let them have, which is even better. So you either vote or you won't allow a vote.
Adam, a politician broke a promise. Stop the presses, right?
Exactly.
Like, no, Adam, that's not exactly for me, not exactly for you, because there's no cost to the Republicans for not taking this. By the way, to your point about they're so much better on TV, they're so much better at messaging. Guess what? You're going to have 50 different culture war bullshit items that they're going to flood the airwaves with, that the healthcare for people who are on exchange insurance, right? The ACA insurance, who also has credits, is going to be a minor fucking footnote because it affects so few people. 9 million people isn't few people, but it is relative to a 350 million person country. This is not going to be a major issue that gets people up in arms and voting against them.
Oh, yes, it is. I have a feeling it's more than 9 million, because I think it affects everybody's insurance.
All they have to do is put a picture of one brown person who committed a crime on Fox News, and no one's going to give a shit about the healthcare premiums.
That's great.
So, again, to my point, you've accomplished nothing.
You have, because you want those 9 million people to suffer. Don't you understand that? You want those 9 million people, those 30,000 people in Pawtucket, Kansas, or wherever, who are now going to switch over because they're pissed and vote Democrat in the next congressional election to give you the seat you want. That is all it comes down to. They want those seats. This is how they're going to get those seats if they allow an election. See, all this is moot if there's no election. Or if there's no legitimate election.
You firmly believe that again, they're saying they're not going to, but you firmly believe the Republicans will never give the health care. Now, just run a little counterfactual. What if they do? Now the Republicans are the heroes to those 9 million people in Pawtucket, which, by the way, is in Nebraska, not Kansas. And now they're the heroes. Now suddenly you didn't gain a single fucking voter.
Hey, but you got
this is what I'm saying. They gave away all of their leverage. Yeah, it's a good outcome for the Republicans.
You know what this is? I would bet just about anything that the Republicans will not come across a plan that will be okay to pass without the Democrats being like, oh, we love this plan, but we want the X, Y, and Z in order for this to be passed. And they'll get it. And that's what's important. But only time will tell, because you know how they'll do it. Next thing you know it, you might see Chuck Schumer, going down on one of these politicians just for fun, and everybody be like, oh, I guess the Democrats and Republicans are the same party. Who the fuck knows? But I'm just saying, in the long game here, you have about 9 months, whatever it is, after January for the next election. The election that really matters. Fuck this last election. It was nice to see and all that, but it wasn't that important, because you pretty much had a good chance of winning anyway. The next one's important. You'll see what kind of redistricting damage was done. You're going to see if people are allowed to even vote. You're going to see so much. And if you're telling me where you have elections that are decided in certain places by 1%, which is 8,000 people or 7,000 people, 9 million people who have a lot more expensive health insurance, and I have a feeling that's going to trickles down to other health insurance, they're going to vote the other way. And then you are back in power. That's all they care about. It's like, that's it. That's all it is. This is all that this game is about who wants the power the most and what they're willing to do for it. They see that the Republicans will fucking blow through a wall and they don't give a shit. When you are in power and you have the president of the United States who's willing to let people suffer when he doesn't have to, tells me something. And the last thing we needed was the Supreme Court to be like, yeah, you don't have to give him like a cop out. No, cut it off right there. He went to the Supreme Court, wanted to stop SNAP benefits altogether. Here you go. Don't give the Supreme Court a chance to even weigh in on it. Let's go back. Just give the SNAP benefits for a year. You just gave people their benefits back. You just got federal workers back in office. You did that. Now let's fight for health insurance. Hopefully there'll be better health insurance. Hell, it should be better than the ACA. So go at it. But you're not going to get that because you don't have much time to figure that out. And Epstein's going to eat up a lot of the game clock.
I don't think it's going to move as much of the needle as you want. So, by the way, dear listeners, don't imagine that Adam and I agree on everything because we definitely don't on this one. Now, Adam, humor me. I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat.
Okay.
Right. So you've got a pretty specific vision of what you think the Democrats are doing here.
No. What they should be doing. What they're doing, I have no idea. They could be fingering each other all day.
That's fair. Fair distinction. My wording was poor. Right. So I think, again, tinfoil hat, here's where I see it. The DNC and their backers, they saw the blue wave that happened on election day, and they panicked because the message that was resonating in so many of those campaigns and campaigns that are continuing now into next year's midterms are progressive and anti-establishment. Those are the ones that are getting people excited. These are the ones getting new first-time voters. These are the ones that are generating momentum, right?
Right.
So you've got Abigail Spanberger now first female governor of Virginia, but she's a former CIA field agent, right? I mean, you couldn't pick a more establishment, probably Republican-leaning type of mole character than her, right? I don't see her being potentially any different than like a Manchin or a Sinema or someone like that, ultimately, right? But someone like Mamdani, right? Chairman Mamdani of the People's Republic of the Five Boroughs, they freaked out about that shit, right? That they saw that Democratic Socialists, like I've known about the Democratic Socialists for about a decade now. That is not a term as a political party that your average voter heard ever up until this year, up until they heard that about Mamdani, right? That he's not actually
always say that about Bernie Sanders?
I think, it sometimes comes up relating to Bernie Sanders. I think he gets lumped in with the Democrats or as an independent, like 1, 2, and then maybe as a Democratic Socialist third. But I think you've got these candidates, right, running for next year's midterms, and they're campaigning on progressive platforms. You've got Kat Abigazela over in Illinois. You've got Graham Plattner up in Maine, and they're challenging the Democratic incumbents and the party openly. And I think that the DNC and its backers, they want to pump the brakes and they want to turn progressives off from the party by capitulating on this issue.
And then where do they go?
Well, so first, just the backers, right, and political donors, you got to remember, they don't just donate to Republicans or Democrats. They donate to Republicans and Democrats because they want their priorities taken care of, and they want their agendas enacted, right? Give you an example. Right here in New York City, right? John Katzimatidis, he's the billionaire owner of Gristedes. He's the one who said if Zohran Mamdani wins,
he's moving to Florida.
He's shutting down his entire grocery store chain, right? He was once asked, he's been asked a number of times by a series of people, he's like, why do you donate to both groups? Because he donates lots of money to Republicans and Democrats, right? He gave money to Hillary and to Trump back in 2016. And his answer is, well, because he wants his phone calls answered. Right.
Yeah, he doesn't care about the color of the dick he socks. What does he care?
Yeah, exactly. Right. He bashed Ron DeSantis because Ron DeSantis didn't answer his phone call. He's like, fuck you, I'm writing you off. Right. They just want power. So I see it as, again, the backers and the DNC, they don't want that progressive energy carrying into the midterms. They want a
Okay.
nice, easy, establishment friendly, back to 2015, turn back the clock mantra to carry the day. And so I think they kind of wanted to poison the well a little bit of the Democratic brand. And because guess what? You look at last year's election, you've got all these people like, I'm not voting Democrat because of what's happening in Gaza, right? Because it was enabled so much by Biden and Harris, and she was going to continue that, not even caring that the Republican alternative was even worse for Gazans, right? Or just as bad. And they voted again. The establishment knows they can turn off progressives and this kind of left wing section of the party and push by cutting that off now. You get these people disgusted with Democrats and not wanting to be a part of things, they'll sit out the election. And I think they're confident enough that they'll win, but they'll not have to change anything.
Interesting thinking. I don't know if they're smart enough for that. Just for the very reason that this would have been the same thing in, Trump's first election. Is like, well, what do we want?
Yes.
The guy who like fucking is insane. We're going to support him. Or even his last time was like, let's see, he tried to overthrow the government. Is that going to really work for me? What if he let's vote for him? So I don't know. I don't think they're smart enough to think that rationally. I could see why they would not like the socialist aspect of it. I don't know. I don't know how deep certain things run or how financially they can tap certain things, but some of these things you're just going to have to wait and find out. Mondami is going to, I mean, people, terrified of a guy who has so little power as mayor.
Yeah.
So that's why I never understood why in the world Cuomo would have wanted to be mayor. Like, I can't imagine, like, how much of a disaster he would have been being told what to do and how to do it and being financed by the governor. I couldn't understand that to wrap. I still can't. But
Yeah,
Mondami, it's interesting.
New York City mayor is basically head cheerleader, right, for the five boroughs. That's really what it is in a lot of ways. But I think for Cuomo specifically, remember, he resigned in disgrace because of a sexual assault scandal.
Exactly.
Right. So this was his foot back into contemporary politics. That's what it was. I mean, freaking Elliot Spitzer did
Then
a
run
comeback,
for Congress.
right?
Don't run for mayor. You don't want to answer to anybody. Run for Congress.
No, you're not going to go from the governorship of one of the biggest states, right? I mean, what is New York? 8% of the GDP of this country. You're not going to go from governor of the state to a House member, right? And they weren't going to wait for Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer is up in 2028.
29, yeah, something like that.
29, yeah, something like that. He's got a few more years. They didn't want to sit and wait on Cuomo, right? They wanted to push him in sooner than later because he could get the mayorship, and then if you wanted to push him for Chuck Schumer's seat, right, at least you're keeping the seat warm for him at that point. You're keeping him on the stove. He's not, yeah, that you don't a guy like that doesn't run for the House, right? He wasn't going to pick a district.
I just could never see him answering to somebody else in a way like that. It was just a disaster waiting to happen that was avoided. And let's see what this guy does. Mamdami's not horribly wrong. He just doesn't have the ability to do a lot of those things. And some of them are just like, he's not wrong, but you still can't alter the supply and demand curve yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the whole thing with like the insurance and health insurance. The same thing with college. The reason prices of college skyrocketed is you affected the supply and demand. You give everybody the ability to take on as much money as you want, increases the demand, and the colleges are like, well, we'll just keep raising our prices every year because the demand is insatiable. Because the only way to get a job is to have college. You just keep raising it up. I mean, going back to like
it's the same with for college. It's the same with housing, right? We've had all these policies to push home ownership, but supply hasn't kept up with demand. And same thing happened, right? It's this weird catch-22 where making college more affordable by giving more financing options is an objectively good thing because you want more people to pursue higher education, especially
Right.
those who don't have the means to do so out of
Hmm.
pocket. But all you've done is you've watered down the value of a college degree at the same
Yeah.
time while making it mandatory, while not really, I think the supply is increased, but it's more than anything, it's you have this subsidy. And so now if
Yeah.
you know every student can get $10,000 of basically free financing from the government to attend a school, you can now raise tuition for free by 10,000. It's the same fucking
Exactly.
principle behind tariffs and why tariffs don't work. Because if you're producing a widget for $2 and your foreign competition gets tariffed to $10, well, guess what you're going to do? You're going to raise that price to $9.95, and you're still going to beat out the competition. And you're going to pocket the difference. It's the exact same economic, principles right there.
Yeah. And we don't seem to either understand that without you have to do something. You want to, the thing is, I understand, you just like with what we're discussing here with the health insurance and the ACA, a normal human being wants people to be able to have affordable health care, get the care they need when they need it, and not it be a worry for them. That just seems like everybody would sign on that line for themselves. For some reason, they stop at themselves a lot of times, but everybody really wants that. That's a basic, fundamental, like, I would assume, fact for everybody. But in order to achieve that, if you're going to increase the demand, you need to do something to increase the supply. And we don't seem to ever do that. We were like, okay, here's money to help with your demand, but we're going to leave everything the same. And that clearly needs to change. And listen, I'm not a Democrat or Republican, and if the Republicans could, after what was that, 2015? Was that what year was the ACA approved? That was before. That was that 2010
In
maybe
2011, I believe, or
11.
2010. No, 2000. Yeah,
I'm not sure how many years
before
after
was it
election or
before the
whatever.
midterm? It was during his first term, during Obama's first term.
Yeah.
I think maybe in 2010. Yeah,
So
because he lost
15
the
years,
House.
say. So
Yeah.
15 years. You have not figured out an alternative to change anything that you wanted, fix anything that you wanted.
Mhm.
And now I'm planning on expecting you in the next like 8 weeks to come up with your own fucking thing, originally completely different, that works. Unlikely. I would love for that to happen because I could give a shit. If everybody, to me, is like Donald Trump could be the greatest leader in the world if he fucking helped the poor, help people get insurance. If he gave everybody what things that they needed, who give a shit if he's president? The problem is he likes to take too many things. So whatever happens, happens. But I think if the Democrats will stick to their guns from this point going forward and have the actual game plan, they might do anything. But the problem is, what's their game plan? Just to extend the credits. That's it. It's not like changing or fixing anything anyway. That's the whole point of all this shit. It's just not to do anything better. There's nobody's plan is to do better. It's just to do less worse, right? What was it? What did
Less
we say?
worse,
Less
yeah.
horrible? Less horrible?
Something like that. Yeah. I think it's this notion, right, mentally where people are at. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, our institutions, they've already collapsed. And the question really is, are you going to acknowledge that collapse and you're going to build other processes and systems, right, for accountability and all the mechanization, right, of what we need to do to operate as a society? Or are you going to continue to pretend that they're still functional while they're still being systematically weaponized against you that entire time, right? Just like they are now, just where healthcare is being and food are being used as weapons against the people in order to push an agenda, right? To gain power, lose power, or to follow an ideology.
Yeah. Yeah. We can't be, everything can't be in God we trust. It just can't. We need rules and regulations that just can't be bent by the whim of one man who's like, nah, I don't think so today. Not
It's like,
feeling
it's
it.
not even rules and regulations so much as, and this is the funny part, right? Just norms and expectations about how we treat each other and how
Yeah, it
we
seems
work
like we don't have
together.
that anymore. It seems like we don't know that.
We don't. Yeah. I wrote this on Blue Sky this last weekend. I was like, it's incredible when you look at the arbitrary vote decision in Bush v. Gore. You look at everything that's happened with the Affordable Care Act. You look at the attack on Roe v. Wade and Obergefell and all these things. So much like our Constitution is not capable of all these sustained attacks on these norms and expectations about what a sober, rational minded leadership is supposed to do with the levers of power in this country. It's just not built for that. It's not built for a bad actor who's doing whatever they feel like or is just
Right.
openly, nakedly grasping for power. Right? It's shocking how, you've had this issue with the Trump administration is a perfect example of this. Just the courts say no, and that's supposed to be the final word, right? You can grumble about it all you want, but that's it. Congress passes the legislation, the executive signs it in, and the judiciary reviews it to ensure it's in line with the existing law. If the judiciary says no, that's it, right? You could try a different, pass the law in a different way that doesn't violate what the judiciary said about how it's not in line with the Constitution. Now you've got the executive openly saying, nuh-uh, whenever there's something he doesn't like. There actually isn't a mechanism for that, and then just going through with it. Right? There's
Especially
no
when
punishment.
he has Congress in his pocket.
Right, exactly.
It's
Well,
a sad day of. Hey, listen, I'm just excited about more of these Epstein leaks. I'm excited more about the memes to follow. I'm very excited about them because clearly Trump is going to be written all over this. And it might just have been all his narcissism to begin with of not wanting this out and not even other bad actors. I mean, if he's really linked to one of these victims, like, oh, fuck. I want to know. We got to know who she is now. Just make sure she doesn't disappear or is offed.
yeah.
So, unless that's what's her name who committed suicide, unless she's the victim, but I don't know if we would probably know that by now.
Virginia
But
Jeffrey. No, she's the one.
yeah,
She's called out a lot of people, but not Trump at any point. The one that the one that he was tied to was Katie Johnson, which is not her real name, right? It's a pseudonym.
okay.
And that's the one where she said he raped me at Epstein's townhouse back in 1994.
Oh wow, okay.
And she was supposedly 13 when that happened. That's the big one. And that got filed before he ran for president. Like shortly before. Yes, I'm looking at my notes here. Yeah, the lawsuit was filed in April of 2016. Right. So he didn't come down that golden escalator until May, June of that
Right,
year.
because
So this
I guess what these emails are about were like him trying to use some of that knowledge to his advantage if Trump became president,
Mhm.
like extortion, Brian.
Yeah, exactly. So again, she's, whoever she is now, we don't know. Again, it's a pseudonym.
Mhm.
She's still kind of protected and shielded currently.
I
But
hope. You would think the woman who killed herself was also, but now he makes me wonder: did she really kill herself?
I, well, who's wearing the tinfoil hat now, Adam?
Well, now it's just like, well, the whole Epstein thing is in question constantly, and now it's like, well, what else is going on? I mean, is this like, all of a sudden all these Putin people just fall out of windows? Russians really can never stay in a hotel above the second floor. So there's a lot of question marks, but I really want to see the government just or Trump veto or make sure that that doesn't get passed after the House. I just want to see that. I want to see all the hubbubaloo or whatever they say, the hubbub that comes from it, because I think it's going to last weeks before they even think about insurance again. I
Well,
think
I
this.
think this goes back to my earlier point is you're going to have so many distractions coming up now with Epstein and with everything else that, again, healthcare credits for 9 million people for, the Affordable Care Act is just not even going to register in the public eye. It's going to get buried so far down.
I think the congressmen who are in those districts are going to cave because they're going to see that, like, they're going to be like, okay, so we didn't do anything in this time we had where the Democrats are like, we're just going to head out. You guys figure this out.
Yeah, it just reeks of that whole we've tried absolutely nothing and we're all out of ideas.
Yes.
Sort of thing. I hate it. I hate it, but it's true.
That sounds about right.
That's why we should just tear down the government to begin with. You ready with me, buddy? You ready to overthrow the government?
I cannot. What do they usually say? I cannot
neither confirm nor deny.
Yes, confirm. I can neither confirm nor deny.
I think if anything, Adam, you just proved yourself to be a CIA mole on this podcast.
Perhaps. I cannot confirm or deny that either. Jesus, man, people are fucking get buried on this.
Well, we'll do a little update Thanksgiving week. So we'll drop this tonight in about 2 hours. Adelita Grijalva should be sworn in to Congress. So you'll get your vote and your release at some point after presumably the government reopens this evening when the vote goes through. So, but I look forward to your eager update of memes and rumors and everything from the Epstein world.
But wait, the Affordable Care Act enrollment grew by 36% in states that voted for Harris in the 2024 presidential election, compared with more than 150% in states that supported President Trump. So that's a lot more. So the total marketplace plan enrollees in states that voted for Trump or Harris is around 19 million enrollees. Okay. That's a lot of people. And that's all Trump country. That's not both. That's just Trump country. I think it's a little over 20, almost 25 million for both parties. But that is, it's just fun. It's just like, see, that's what it shows you, like, their talking points and how good they've been for so long, that they're the ones who use it the most are red people. And they're the ones.
The gender neutral term red people and not red man.
Yes, exactly. Red people, not blue men, blue women, red people use it the most. And blues have been basically constant for the last 5 years. But for some reason, they will consistently vote against their own benefits. And I think when they see it literally coming out of their pocket first. Now, I'm really thinking that the Democrats are way smarter than they are. But if I'm looking at the knowledge that I have and have had and seen, people go and vote when things are hurting them now.
Yeah, personally.
Not like, because, all these farmers who are like, I don't get it. Or all the Hispanic people are like, I don't understand. You said that you were only going to get rid of the illegal criminals. No, listen, you only heard what you wanted to hear. The farmers, you only heard what you wanted to hear. Now you're going to feel what you see and heard. And I mean, that's an obscene amount of people you're going to hurt in your cities and towns. And they're going to be paying that every month for the next election? I don't think so.
You know what, though? I think you're right? People don't really react until shit affects them. Generally speaking, especially people who vote Republican, right? If they don't see it, if it's not affecting them, it's not an issue, and they don't generally take it to heart, right, and consider it when they're making their decisions. But again, I think you're going to have so many distractions. You're going to have so much stuff coming up. I think you're giving people too much credit here, because this goes back to the thing we fundamentally talked about with the protests and those discussions, which is, okay, is your big platform going to be, well, we're not the Republicans, right? Is that really the Democratic position going to be? Is, hey, those guys screwed you over. Well, we're going to also screw you over, but we didn't screw you over this time. Right? I
Or
still don't see what the alternative is. To your point about they could have come up with a better system than the Affordable Care Act, Democrats aren't attempting to do that either.
well, right. But that's what, like, when we talked about that during the protest, was healthcare is one of those movements. Now the Democrats can, if once again, have a brain, say, let's sign off on these ACA credits for the next X amount of time, and we have to work on a real new health platform. And they should come with it now. They have plenty of time to work on it. And after January, they have plenty of time to work on it. And if they just want to sit around and do circle jerks because they're still getting paid and nobody else is, then, then they just screwed the pooch, which I'm not denying that they will. But
look, you're underestimating the billions of dollars that get spent every year on healthcare and the private companies that, again, back the DNC, back the RNC, and all these individual politicians. They're not going to want anything done to the ACA because it is, in a lot of ways, and Republicans are right when they classify it this way, it's a giveaway to the insurance companies, sure. Right? It's a subsidy. It's a direct subsidy. Not any different from the subsidies that ExxonMobil gets or Tesla or SpaceX, right? Or any of these fuckers that they get, right? SNAP is, in a lot of ways, a huge giveaway to Walmart and the Waltons. Like, they don't need the money.
Right.
But yeah, again, it goes back to the powers that be that are funding this, that are backing the political parties, don't want to see this change. And I think, again, the tinfoil hat, but it's only halfway on, is they want this to fail because they don't want to see more of a progressive movement. Now, that might backfire, admittedly. I think that is their play, but I think it's going to, if it is, I think it has a good chance of backfiring.
Well, yeah,
because I think you can get, for is mainstream establishment Democrats, for sure, because you would have actual progressives now with volume, right? It wouldn't just be a handful of folks, Ilhan Omar and AOC and all them, right? It would actually be, there'll be more people like them who are pushing for these policies within the Democratic Party. You'd have a little bit of a Democratic civil war at that point because you'd actually have the numbers behind it.
Be beneficial. You need a Democrat to come in between and a more moderate Democrat who's like, I don't give a shit. I like some of these progressive points. I want to use some of them. Some of the other stuff is way too hippy-dippy or far-fetched or unrealistic, and let's just go to town. This is what we're running on. This is what we're doing. And see where it goes. Yeah. But we'll see. I just hope that just don't waste everybody's time and let all these people just not have health insurance and they have nothing to gain whatsoever.
We'll see how this plays out. Remind me 40 days.
Is that what it is, basically?
Stuff like that, yeah.
Or you're going to toil for 40 days and 40 nights.
Speaking of deadlines, you are getting really close to winning our bet about Nicolas Maduro.
I don't know. I think they're really looking like they're kicking this thing down. I mean, how many more? I'm just surprised that there's so many people leaving the shores of Venezuela and risking getting blown up. I mean, how many people did they kill already? Like 70 plus?
I think it's 76 or something. Yeah, at this point, I think it was the official count. When we're recording.
How do they know that? Do they like go check the wreckage afterwards?
No. Why would you check the wreckage?
Exactly.
I'm telling you, I'm pretty sure at least half of those videos are AI generated at this point.
I don't
believe them. I absolutely believe so. I saw a video that was someone driving along this like beachside road, supposedly in Venezuela, and they just had anti-missile batteries like setting up the vehicles kind of on the side of the road. I'm like, all right, this seems like one of those rage bait type of things to be like, oh my God, they're preparing for invasion. But these anti-missile batteries were literally on trucks on the beach exposed. Like they weren't behind cover or trees or anything. I'm like, cool. So nice, easy targets for the U.S. Air Force to hit if you're actually going to send them in. Right? I was like, something here doesn't make sense. I'm like 98% sure this is AI generated.
That or they just like once again, I'm always thinking people are smarter than they are. They would just be showing it to their people, like, hey, look what we're doing, but they're not going to show them actually hidden, because then you're like, hey, this is where they're hidden. So, hey, we're getting them out. They're on the beach. They're chilling. They're ready for fighting. We're going to launch our missiles if they come any closer. Just to show things, but, kind of like when we do our shows, like you just show what you need to show, but you hide the rest.
Yeah,
but
I'm just waiting for one of those boat clips to come up and have the Sora watermark across it.
Oh my God! Like they didn't even waste their time trying to edit that out. That would be so awesome.
It'd be great if someone missed that, or sent like the early copy and not the finished copy that didn't have it. Right? They exported the wrong one. It'd be just like that video that Fox News aired about the SNAP recipients.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
It's complete bullshit. So we'll see, my friend. We live in a post-truth world. Sad, bad.
Maybe that would be the first rule of law. Would be like changing what is defined as news and not news. I don't believe that you should be allowed to call yourself a news network when 20 hours of your channel is opinions. That should not be allowed.
I don't know. We'll see, bud.
But that's my truth.
It's my truth, and I'm sticking to it. All right, friends, on that note, we'll try to clean this up, get this out tonight ahead of this vote, and then we'll catch you next week with the conclusion of our little series on protests, and hopefully we'll have a little something for everyone at the week of Thanksgiving.
It's like a plan.
Catch y'all later. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you. See you later, man.
Bye.
Bye. Idiots Seeking Village is a production of Village Idiots Media. For more, find us online at villageidiotmedia.com or find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon, and wherever you get podcasts.